'Tis Friday. We're here. We made it. You're through another week. We're that much closer to football. We are, 22 days away, looks like, from the toe hitting the leather against Akron at the Horseshoe in Columbus. Dan, we are doing our Blitz to 500. I looked the other day. We're over 300 subscribers. So I'm feeling good about that. How about you?
I feel great, man. You just made my day. I was thinking we were 4 weeks away from kickoff. I've lost track of that 4-day trip up to Columbus. Screwed up my calendar.
All right.
So that's great. That's great news. 3 weeks, man.
Yeah,
3 weeks
22
until we hang
days.
70.
Yeah. Dang, 70. Oh gosh, I feel bad for my zips, man. Oh well, that's why they call it your undergrad, I guess. Yeah, folks, we're doing a Blitz to 500, trying to get to 500 subscribers before August 31st. We've never really asked for subscriptions. That's just not really been my thing. But if you haven't subscribed yet, it's free. You can do it. It takes 0.27 seconds. Just hit the subscribe button. And if you want to know when we drop content, you can hit the alert bell. It's Tuesdays and Fridays right now. But during the season, we'll be doing a post-game show live, the best damn recap. So Dan and I'll be doing a 10 or 15 minute kind of, hey, this is what we saw, this is what we think, and then we'll go from there. But people will keep asking us to do more content, but we just do this for fun, so can't do it every day, or I would probably not have a regular job.
I mean, unless we get tens of thousands of subscribers.
Yeah, I mean, if 1.25 million subscribers, sure. So practice has been happening this week. We've had a lot of news, a lot of information coming out. Apparently, I think if you guys haven't caught on, there's an illness going around the Woody, and it's actually a little bit of everywhere because it's lots of little kids have it too in and around people I know, and it's hand, foot, and mouth. It's very common. But apparently it's making its rounds this year. I heard several of my friends' kids have it. But let's talk recruiting, Dan, and then we'll break down the practices. So there's a bunch of blubbering people on X, which bugs me. I'm starting to feel like I'm too old for Twitter, man. I'm like, get off my lawn. I don't want to read about this. And maybe I should just follow two people, like some of the people on there do. But an RPM, whatever. Chad Simmons drops an RPM for offensive tackle Josh Petty to Georgia Tech, and people are like, "Oh, we're losing recruits to Georgia Tech." Guys, hold on just a minute. Hold on. I don't know about you, Dan. I didn't even know we were really in on this guy until about a month ago. I knew we offered him.
Listen, it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to Florida State.
Yeah.
And because the parents, the family said they wanted him to go where his sister went, and she's starting her freshman year at Florida State. So I don't know. It's kind of bizarre. I mean, he's a private school kid. Georgia Tech is a high academic school. I've heard a couple people at this point talk about this. I don't look at a deal like this as if we're losing somebody to Georgia Tech. The kid's got different priorities.
Yeah.
That's all it is, right? You got a lot of guys in the NFL that went to Stanford.
Yeah.
Those kids obviously could have played anywhere they
wanted.
Mm-hmm. But they went to Stanford for obvious reasons. So I'm not losing any sleep over it. I don't know if it's necessarily over.
Right.
But to your point, a month ago, after the OVs in the summer, there's a little bit of smoke with him, but it got dampened pretty quickly, and the kid really wasn't on our radar until a few weeks ago. There started to be some more smoke about him possibly having us in his final two, and who knows? I mean, I'm sure we're pursuing him, but
yeah, I think it's important.
He's a 5-star, but he's a project.
Yeah, that's what I was going to lead into. So I messaged this to you and Chuck this morning. And for those of you who don't know, the three of us talk every day, so there's always stuff being discussed in the background. he is a project. He's not a day one guy.
80% of which will never make it onto either.
No, 80% will never make it onto the shows. But he's not a day one guy. He's not David Sanders. Like, he's light. And he's probably a 2-year project in the program with Mick, with the proper nutrition program. And Dan, maybe I'm a little bit too critical on that, but how do you feel? Like, I think it's going to take 2 years to get him where he needs to be to start in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, kids can put on.
He's not David Sanders, though.
No,
he's not. You can't just drop him on the offensive line next year and be like, "Hey, here you go."
No, I mean, listen, these schools are really, really, really good at evaluating kids' bodies.
Yep.
And they look at things like, ankle and wrist diameter and calf diameter and, shoulders and things like that to determine, if the kid's still going to grow and what kind of weight he can put on and how quickly. So if they took him, I would think that would mean that they're confident they can put the weight on him, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ohio State's not going to take a 250-pound tackle if they don't think he can get to where he needs to be. Could it be quicker than 2 to 3 years? It probably can get done within inside of 12 to 18 months. But to your point, he's not a plug and play 5-star like David Sanders, or quite frankly, I think we might be surprised next year. Carter Lowe could press for playing time. People just seem to forget about him at this point. He's like one spot removed from a 5-star, and he's looked really good on the camp circuit.
Well, something you dropped on me yesterday, or was it yesterday or the day before we were chatting, and you mentioned Ian Moore. And yeah. And then we have the Armstrong twins. So there's some tackles, and then we know that Zen Mahalski is still in the program. So there's still some dudes running around. The cupboard's not bare after the depth this year is a little concerning just because of the youth. And we touched on that on Tuesday. So I brought up David Sanders, so we might as well talk about David Sanders. Listen, guys, no one, and I have this on good authority, and I know Dan does too. So Dan, I'll let you hammer this home. From the Sanders camp is telling anyone anything. And when you hear Steve Wiltfong and some of the other guys, well, maybe it's this or maybe it's that, or he visited Tennessee, they're guessing. They don't know. But Dan, I'll let you bang on this.
Here's Steve Wiltfong's statement, most recent statement. Obviously, we're now in the home stretch. He's going to come out on the 17th. To my knowledge, no final decision has been made. No school has been alerted, and they're still having dialogue with all 3 of them, and these programs are going to get the chance to make a final pitch.
Yep.
Talking to all of my sources and adding up the intel, my best guess today would be Tennessee, but I've also at times had my best guess on Ohio State. Let me summarize that for you. Steve Wiltfong doesn't know what's going on.
Yep.
No one knows what's going on. So to react the way people are reacting on Twitter right now, I mean, I think Justin Fry's house is up for sale, for crying out loud.
Jeez, yeah.
And he's not the one that put the sign in the yard. Everyone needs to relax. Listen, the kid, he posted last time Wiltfong said something about Tennessee, he posted his senior picture with his Ohio State sleeve on.
Mm-hmm.
In his senior picture, right? You have to think a kid wouldn't do that unless it was just a throwaway pic.
Yeah.
That a kid wouldn't do that, for a lasting memory if it didn't mean something. And then yesterday, he posted a picture of himself on vacation in Cape Cod with an Ohio State hoodie and an Ohio State hat. So each time Wiltfong has said something about Tennessee or Nebraska, he's posted something with Ohio State. Now, some people will be quick to tell you that J.J. Smith did the same thing last year with Miami. He posted a lot of stuff wearing Miami gear. But, I mean, listen, the kid would definitely – it would be an ultimate troll job if he didn't come here. I can't – I think I told you – I don't know if it was my brother or you guys this morning in text, but, like, if what they say is important to him, I don't see how we don't get him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they're truly taking into account, NIL,
Mm-hmm.
development,
Mm-hmm.
next level,
Yeah.
life after his career is over, medical school. I just don't see how Tennessee or Nebraska stacks up against us.
Well, and so finally, I've seen some. Do you ever have things that just bug you? Like, there's been. I put this in my notes.
Yeah, we talked
There,
about Twitter earlier.
yeah. Well, so I'm gonna. This is my get off my lawn segment. There have been guys that I've been talking about for a year or two in the program where I'm like, listen, these guys can play football. Like, listen to me. I'm telling you, they're going to get drafted. Josh Simmons. Everybody was harping on him about like where he played, his false starts, and I'm like, listen, this guy could end up being a second round draft pick or a late first round draft pick. I've been saying it for over a year now. I hear Berm parroting that too, and on the podcast daily and other things, and like so. Josh Simmons will not be here after this year. He's going to have a monster year. I just know it. He's gonna play lights out. His body's completely transformed, and David Sanders' path to playing time is immediate next year at left tackle. Period.
Yeah.
And if not right tackle, one of the tackles, even if they move somebody over. But add that into the fact that I think you and I have both been told the same thing, that there are folks in the NIL world that are very quietly confident about where we stand with David Sanders. And I don't think that they would say that if they didn't really feel that way. But no one's going to come out and say, yeah, we got the best package, but we probably do.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about it before we came on air that Daniel Sanchez, Devin's dad, posted this morning that 60% of 2025 offensive tackles in the 24/7 ratings.
Yeah.
It was like 112 out of 187 players.
Yep.
60% have committed to a school within 2.5 hours of their home. Now, he didn't clarify if that was driving or whatever, but I took it upon myself to be creative, and I pulled up some flight times on American Airlines from Charlotte to Columbus, and they're all right around 90 minutes. And I said, hey, it looks like we're in great shape. And he replied back with a couple handshake emojis, and I have no idea what that means, but I'm gonna assume it means something good because I'm gonna be positive about this.
Yeah. Well, I want to stay on offense. I know in our notes I jumped to Messiah Delone, but we need to shift gears on that a little bit, I think. So Jamie French. So we have the commitment of a couple 5-star receivers now to Texas, so Kylie Lockett commits there as well to Texas. So Jamie French is kind of just still kind of hanging out there. And I hate to retread this because I'm not, I'm not super high on Jamie French. I'm just not. Like I've tried to talk myself into it, and I'm probably going to end up being wrong. And when I am wrong, I'll admit it on our show. But it's just really quiet with him. Like they're like, I don't know what to think. I think he could end up in the class.
Well, I texted you guys the other day. It's just he's been off. It's been awfully quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And he took his OVs. I still can't remember. Did he take one here?
I think he was here early in June.
Yeah. But regardless, or did he say he was going to get up here in the fall? I can't remember.
Let me look.
You know what? He's a fall guy because I remember that people were putting out that he was going to be visiting, and they would only name 4 schools, but it was for the summer because
he did not visit.
Right?
Yeah, so he's got Texas June 21st, Tennessee the 14th, LSU on the Miami on the 11th, and May 31st was LSU, but we did not have a visit.
But here's the deal: I get the impression that he is not somebody that wanted to be in a class with another 5-star.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the 5-stars have committed elsewhere at this point. So if that's true, I think it puts us in the mix. He's also a kid that has made handfuls of visits to Ohio State without any sort of
fanfare. Yeah.
Fanfare. I mean, he's been on the Ohio State campus a bunch.
Okay.
So I don't know. We'll see. I can also see him being a kid that's going to wait until one of the televised games to make his announcement. So, we might be talking about this for a while.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to bring it up because we were just kind of. I'm rounding out our 2025 class right now. I've started to shift like my focus to 2026 and what we're doing, especially with the offensive line, because of the offensive linemen that are in Ohio that will be available for 2026. So that I've started to kind of shift my focus a little bit. And I trust you and Chuck on the 2025 stuff implicitly. So, so Messiah Delhomme, do we have confirmation on his injury? Do we know for sure?
I feel pretty good about the source, so I don't have a problem saying it. I mean, the
Okay.
word is that he broke his leg in 7-on-7. Um, but prior to hearing that, and it might have been as a result of that, we started to hear that he was no longer a take for Ohio State.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know
if he,
why.
I know Chuck's going live, so I didn't want to like ruin his live show on Saturday for the Messiah Delhomme.
Actually, he announced this morning he's no longer going to do it live because he's not a take.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
I missed it this morning.
He's going to do it live, but it's not going to be in conjunction with that announcement.
Okay. So, but yeah, I really like the kid. I was rooting for him. He's a thick kid, big kid, athlete, plays on both sides of the ball. We'll see, but I don't. It just doesn't sound like there's a bond there. So, all right. Anybody else you're kind of paying attention to, Dan? I know people ask us all the time for recruiting tidbits. So, is there anybody else you're kind of watching right now?
I mean,
Or
you've got the receivers out there. You've got, is it Noah Miles?
yeah,
No,
Noah
that's
Miles. No,
who's
not
it?
Noah Miles. No. Shoot.
Norman, something, the kid in Utah that came
Yeah.
out of nowhere recently. Phillip Bell, Preston Bowman. Those are a few guys that are floating around out there. We've got 24 commits right now, and we've heard 28 to 29 to as many as 30. So I think there's going to be some flyers. We're going
Jerome
to end up taking
Miles.
some flyers on some folks. What's that?
Yeah, Jerome Miles from Corner
Jerome
Canyon
Miles.
was the offer that they dropped. It's a 5-star.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think they're going to circle back with some guys. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't go back after Andrew Stargell. Maybe the kid that committed to Wisconsin out of the Cincinnati area, the lineman.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've, it's a long way till December.
Yep, it is. It is. We're just now cresting the first week of August.
Back? Are we still taking the third running back? I don't know.
I'm after watching a couple other shows, I'm all in on Turbo Rogers. I kind of want them to go get him, just because take somebody from Alabama and different type of running back. Different size, different speed, different everything. Because you got Isaiah West, and I expect him to kind of be a banger, and I'm not trying to like downplay him or anything, but yeah, I'd be fine with that. Yeah. All right. So I know I kind of sort of missed this one the other day, so apologies, but I know that there's been a couple people talking about Ross Bjork and the stadium naming and possibly being, selling the rights to the name, to rename Ohio Stadium or the Horseshoe, whatever you want to call it. We all call it the Shoe. We all know that. Or the Horseshoe. So, and what really kind of got me fired up was, I think it was FAU or FIU selling the naming rights to Pitbull. And now it's like, Pitbull Stadium. So Dan, I put in my notes, my thoughts, but, what are you thinking right now? I mean, we have to be aligned on this.
I don't know. I'll be honest with you, man. I didn't know the history of Ohio Stadium and how that stadium was built, how it was funded.
Yeah.
And to know that there was no public money, taxes, or anything else like that contributed, in that people literally ponied up individual donations to build it.
Correct.
Thus naming it Ohio Stadium. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of changing the name on that. I joked that if people want to keep calling it the shoe, we should just get a deal with DSW.
Yeah.
Then you can still call it the shoe, and
Yeah.
they won't be upset, right? Because that's
Right.
what they sell. So no, I don't know, man. I've become so numb. Like, I remember there being a big deal about sponsorship patches being put on the uniforms in the NBA, and maybe it's because I don't watch the NBA, but like, has it really impacted anything?
Mm.
Now
Yeah.
college football, I will acknowledge before I get beat up here that the tradition of college football is what makes college football, right?
Right.
And with that comes certainly the uniforms, especially at a place like Ohio State. Um, and then the stadium as well. I don't know if many people have a love affair with their stadium like we do
Mm.
in regards to the name. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's probably 10 or 12 out there that do. But other than that, it's just a stadium.
Okay. Well, must be in a
I
mood
know
this
you
week,
feel
man.
strongly about it.
I do. So listen, this comes from a place of, and someday somebody wants to know the story, I'll tell you the story. But so I am a huge and have been a huge Cleveland Indians fan my entire life. Like, love the Indians. And when I like I was at so many things at the Jake, it's not even funny. Like, I spent most of my senior year, I went to like 60 some of the home games because I had a friend that had his dad had season tickets. And I was at the 97 All-Star game, and when they changed the name to the P, or the Progressive Field, I will never ever call it that, ever. I'm not going to tell somebody I'm on my way to the P. That just doesn't make any sense to me. I call it the Jake. I still call it the Jake. I will always call it the Jake. And I still call them the Indians. I'm not calling them whatever they call themselves now, the G's or whatever, G, whatever. So as far as the horseshoe goes, that's kind of how I feel. Like, and I know Chuck summarized it really well. He said, I don't want a shirt that says I still call it the shoe. Like, I don't want that for Ohio State. I don't want it for Ohio State football. You can put, you want to put a name, like, you want to sell naming rights around the stadium. Like, you want to, sell, people can put up banners like Safe Light and DSW, and like put stuff on the turf on the sidelines or whatever it is, for advertisement. Great, but don't sell the naming rights. I just can't get behind it. It bothers me a lot. I don't want it to be Nationwide Stadium or whatever. And the patches on the jerseys, I will trade you a patch on the jersey for gray sleeves. You give me the gray sleeves, you can put a patch on the jersey. So Ross, you're not listening, but in case you see this clip for some reason, I will trade you patch on the jersey for gray sleeves. Bring them back, please. So,
Yeah. So, and I'm going to preface this by saying I don't think it's apples to apples, but just to play devil's advocate, like, the Jake wasn't the Jake until it was the Jake, right? Like, I mean, that stadium's still less than 30 years old.
mm-hmm.
And you it is it really that sentimental?
Was to me.
I get it. I understand why. So I'm not going to dog that. And it's more of a family name than it is a naming rights thing, too.
Yeah. I mean, so I don't know. There was so much.
I just like the sound of the Jake.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm not a like. So I'm a homer, but like, I'm not like an overly sentimental guy, but I was at the last Indians game at Municipal Stadium. I was at the last Browns game at Municipal Stadium. I remember the Browns leaving like it was yesterday and how much that hurt. And I remember 1994, and I was at opening day at Jacobs Field, and I remember how that felt.
Yeah.
And I'm in that age group, that like we lost the Browns, but I remember that, and I remember how much fun it was and how good they were and what that meant to the city of Cleveland. I did the walkway to Gateway. I parked at Tower City. I have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. I've watched them win 100 and lose 100. So that that meant a lot to me now. And same with the Buckeyes. Like it that stadium, those things, I'd rather them fix the bathrooms in the Gen Pop area and build a bigger jumbotron and do some of these things. And and I know they need money to do that. So
The jumbotron is low hanging fruit.
yeah,
We should have the biggest and the best jumbotron in college
and
football.
then sell ads on that.
Yeah,
There's media timeouts every 3 freaking minutes. So all right, I'll get off that horse.
yeah.
Sorry, I could do a whole show on that. So we're a full week into practices, Dan. I get asked daily, all the time. Anyone who knows our pod or follows us know that we are truly believe that there's a quarterback battle. I did hear from someone who I trust, who's very, very close to the program, that before Ryan Day's press conference yesterday, I mentioned it to you, and I literally laid out what he was going to say, and then I posted that on because Buckeye Huddle was live, and one of our supporters, Doug Shepard, was like, "Don't pat yourself on the back too hard for being correct about everything Ryan Day was going to say." I said, "Will Howard made strides. We're not ready to name a starting quarterback yet. Consistency, da 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 da." Basically, exactly what Ryan. I laid it out exactly what he was going to say, and that's exactly what he said. So here we are, heading into the weekend, and he said, "I want to see what happens during a scrimmage." I said, Ryan Day is going to say, we need to see a scrimmage. So Dan, but then reports come out today and yesterday that Devin Brown had the best day of any of the quarterbacks. So
Yeah, it depends on who you listen to. I mean, I think for whatever reason, there's still some people that will downplay him having a good day. I will say this year more than last year, and it's probably because he's better this year, that you're hearing some folks, especially talk about his deep ball
mm-hmm.
and just how uh, good at Spencer Holbrook on Letterman Row. He raves about his deep ball and how pretty it is, and seems like every day we hear a report about him hitting somebody deep. Then you got some people on other shows that when they're asked who's got the strongest arm on the team, they mention Will Howard and Julian Sain, and it's like, have you paid attention to anything? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's really pretty much a universal consensus that Devin's got the strongest arm. But I mean, here's the deal. I mean, I think the writing is on the wall at this point, and and the smart money is on Will starting. I've said that. It would be hard for Will to not get the job. Like, I think Will would have to turn the ball over a lot
Mm-hmm.
to lose the job. Now, he did have a pick in the red zone. I want to say 2 days in a row. Well, 2 days ago, I think he had a pick in the red zone, in the end zone. And then he did throw a pick to Denzel. A lot of people reported to yesterday. But then they're quick to discount it because it's Denzel, which that does drive me a little nuts. Like a fifth-year guy shouldn't be getting picked on an out pattern. But, I think what Ryan said is accurate yesterday. I think Will has a calmness of himself in the pocket. And if you look at Zach Smith did film breakdown last year or the other night and listen, I know Zach's a controversial guy, but if you truly want to learn about football, subscribe and get the film sessions that he does. They're top notch. There's nobody else doing it out there like him, and it's really, really good. And he broke down the offensive line's performance last year, and he showed a handful of examples of where the offensive line had really good pass pro.
Yeah.
But Kyle drifted into the defenders. Like,
so I muted it.
Pocket.
So I muted. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. There's
right.
there was a smidge of a delay there. I could see you were talking, but there was no words, and then you started talking, and then I heard it again. Yes. So I mute it. You guys, if you know me, like I'm okay with a little bit of like the cuss words and stuff, but the F's, the multiple F's, I struggle with. And so I mute it and I watch it, but I did see the one where Kyle drifted into Jimmy Simmons. He didn't step up in the pocket. He moved left and basically, and then it affected his pass. There were there, but yeah, Zach,
Yeah.
I mean, he's a football coach. Like, he gets it. Like, he's in the thick of it. He can break it down, does a good job.
It's really good stuff. And he'll break down not just Ohio State games, but other games throughout the country, throughout the season. It's really good.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think that's what Will brings, is his calmness in the pocket and his ability to extend plays. And extend plays doesn't mean that you're, Johnny Manziel running around crazy back there. It means that you're able to maneuver the pocket and not. And in that example with Kyle, it wasn't even about maneuvering in the pocket. It was about just staying where you're supposed to stay.
Agreed.
Like just stay in the pocket.
Yep. Well, Kyle, he didn't move well, and then when he did move, he moved wrong.
Yeah.
So I got this snippet of Coach Day's presser yesterday. By the way, Coach Day has slimmed down. I don't know. I noticed it yesterday for the first time. Like, he definitely, it looks like he's lost some weight. So, but here's Ryan Day, 40 seconds of him on the quarterbacks.
Yeah, we've been mixing it up a little bit, but you're starting to see he and Devin get a little bit more lion's share of the reps with the ones. I will say that he's taken command of the huddle at the line of scrimmage. I think he's much more confident out there. No decisions have been made. We're gonna probably scrimmage a little bit on Saturday. By then we'll take an evaluation and kind of see where we're at. But both guys are getting reps with the ones. But I will say that Will really has taken some strides here in the last couple practices, taking control of the offense, making plays on third down. Again, hasn't won the job, but we have seen some positive play about that.
So kind of what I said.
The writing's on the wall.
Yeah, it is.
Now, with this being said, Ryan needs to make sure we've got somebody ready this time.
Yeah.
Last year, Devin was going into what I consider to be his first real year competing for reps.
Right.
His redshirt year, he didn't get to, attempt to pass.
No.
He certainly didn't take reps with the ones in practice. If he ran scout team, it was off of the card, where they just hold up the card and the guys run the play. So
right.
It's just, for all intent and purposes, last year was really his first year. And I think the improvements he's made year over year are tremendous. But Ryan's got to have him ready.
Yeah.
And did we talk about this on Tuesday about the idea of Julian being the backup?
We talked a little bit about it. I think one thing that I want to just say this, and then we'll do that, is if they do the scrimmage on the 10th, Ryan Day meets with the media on the 15th. Even if he announces that Howard's the starter on the 15th, it's earlier than Fields, Haskins, and Stroud and McCord. Because I think they were all in the 20 range, so it would be almost a week earlier than any of those other guys. Which you and I had hoped that he'd learned his lesson, and wouldn't wait as long. And so the team can rally behind whoever that guy is. So go on with your Julian thought.
No, I was just going to say this, like this idea that Julian's going to be the backup quarterback, it's just silly. Like, if your backup quarterback needs to be ready to be QB1 today, you have to assume that QB1 goes down on the next play, and your QB2 needs to be able to go in there and be ready. And he's not.
Yeah.
He's just not. So the idea that Devin and Will are going to be competing for the number one spot, and that whoever loses that battle is all of a sudden going to be QB3, like, that's just nonsensical.
Fair enough.
Another thing I want to warn people about is listening to statistics that come out of practice. And I'm going to give you an example. So yesterday, it was reported that Will Howard went 9 for 18 with a pick, and then I think a red zone touchdown run.
Yep.
Okay.
Zone read. Yep.
it was reported that Devin went 11 for 16 with 1 or 2 really nice touchdowns, but 4 sacks. Okay. So let's break that down for a second. Number one, somebody might say that Devin took 4 sacks. Okay. Well, the offensive, and I'm going to provide.
Tell them who was playing left tackle first.
And before people react, like, this isn't about, making excuses for Devin, because I'm about to make excuses for Will too. Okay. This is about taking what you hear from practice with a grain of salt. So, yeah, I mean, if Will got most of the reps with the ones yesterday, that means Devin was repping with the twos, which means that he was really repping with the threes at offensive line, because the offensive line was decimated from a virus yesterday. Right?
Yeah, Austin Sarabeld was at left tackle yesterday.
Yeah, Austin Sarabeld is our backup, is
left guard.
Backup guard.
Yeah, and he's our third string offensive tackle.
He was playing tackle with the ones yesterday. Yeah. So, which means that whoever the fourth string tackle was probably playing with Devin, right? Now, to Will's defense, he's going against the best defense and the best secondary in the country. So his completion percentage was a little bit lower, which you would expect, right? So just take things with a grain of salt and try to understand context when you hear about stats coming out of practice. Because another thing is I heard completely different stats. Like Juck had some stats, and then Stephen Means had some stats, and they were different.
Yeah, I get it. And it's tough, man. It's tough. Like, I mean, you're a quarterback at Ohio State. There's going to be scrutiny. And then I caught this on I like the Bobby Carpenter show. I enjoy it. Like, I just think Bobby. I think Bobby's good. Like at what he does. That's probably why he's on ESPN occasionally and stuff. But he said, and something that, like, again, we all kind of circle around the same ideas, I feel like, in this pod world. And I had brought up that I thought Will Howard could be JT Barrett. Bobby Carpenter literally just said, and I should have grabbed the short, Will Howard could be JT Barrett. So,
I hate that analogy.
Well, you know what? You can hate it all you want.
I just don't think they're even close to being the same player.
Well, I think that the context. So you like context. The context was, and for me, same, is he doesn't have to be Justin Fields. He doesn't have to be a superstar. He has to distribute the football, not turn it over, understand the offense, make a play here and there with his legs. And, that's kind of what Bob was saying. And it's kind of what I was saying, and outside of that Penn State comeback a few years ago with JT Barrett, where he went like 18 for 18 or whatever in that last little bit, Barrett wasn't a great downfield passer. I've told you before, we don't win the Natty if Barrett doesn't get hurt in that Michigan game, because the combination of Elliott just pounding the rock and then Cardale taking the top off, Barrett didn't have that arm. I still, to this day, don't think we win the Natty if Barrett's the quarterback. But, I'm going to take some heat for that. I always do.
Okay, so you now have me concerned.
Okay.
You say we wouldn't win the Natty with Barrett at quarterback.
Not that year, no.
But you're comparing Will Howard's game to his. Does Will Howard help us win the Natty this year?
I think so.
Or are we going to look back at it and say, man, his lack of downfield accuracy and willing to take shots really ended up costing us?
Well, so can we let's just reference the Wisconsin Big Ten title game. I mean, Cardale was just slinging it, man. There was a couple plays that, like, he just threw up 50-50 balls.
Yeah. I do think there is a little bit of an element of surprise.
Yeah.
There, because
they didn't know what to expect. Yeah, we didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, none of us did.
Yeah. So,
we finished out he finished out the Michigan game, but he didn't really show any of that.
No. And Ezekiel Elliott won those football games. I mean,
well, that, and Urban was also in serial killer mode. He knew that we needed to make a statement.
Yeah. Fair enough.
We had Devin Smith, so
yeah.
But it's all interesting. Here's the reality: is that I am thoroughly convinced that whoever QB2 is, which it's likely going to be Devin at this point, I think they're going to have a huge impact on the season.
They're going to play a ton of football.
But I think they're going to have to play some meaningful football for us at some point in time.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to the JT and Will thing, the reason I hate that analogy is that JT, that was just a different type of offense, and he was asked to run the ball in a different manner than what Chip Kelly does with his quarterback. I mean, JT was running. It was called QB runs. It was QB powers.
Yeah. Yeah. The QB power was you're spot on.
I don't think we're going to see Will taking off and running over the center and the guard very often.
Third and 2, you knew what was coming. Yeah. Third and 2, you knew it was QB power. You knew you just knew it. You just okay, it's QB power. It's either going to be left or right, but it's going to be QB power. So. Yeah. All right, man. I don't want to belabor that point. I'm probably going to end up being wrong, which will be fine, and I'll admit it. So we've been talking about whoever the backup quarterback is going to need to play. So besides the starting 22, and I thought this would just be fun to do, who do you expect to make the most impact that, let's start with the defense. Who are some guys that, we win it all. It's a 16-game season probably. People are going to get nicked up. People are going to get, need time off. We're going to be playing Akron and Western Children's of the Poor and these people. So, going to be a lot of run for some of the backups. Who are some players you're watching, that you think, man, they're going to be able to help us along the way, and they're probably going to get some meaningful reps too.
Well, defensively, I think the couple of the obvious ones are going to be Jermaine Matthews.
Yep.
He's not starting, but he's going to play a lot.
Yep.
At linebacker, I'm going to throw CJ Hicks in there because I don't think he'll be starting. I think Sonny starts, which means CJ's a backup. I think there's a handful of guys on the defensive line that we're gonna see get a lot of run. Harold Canoe, Caden McDonald, Jason Moore, Edric Houston. It seemed to be that Kenyatta Jackson was kind of having a breakthrough camp, but he hurt his ankle yesterday and had to get it taped up pretty heavily. Hopefully that's nothing serious.
Yeah, he was on the ground for a while, they said.
Him and Caden. I know it seems like I'm just naming the whole too deep, but these are guys that are earning playing time in practice so far. Gabe Powers has been getting a lot of run.
There it is.
And then at safety, you have to, Malik and Jalen.
Yep. Jalen McClain lost his black stripe. Yep.
Yep.
All right. Well, you pretty much went through my entire list, but so I had Gabe Powers number 1 because
was I supposed to pick just one or two.
No, it's okay. Gabe Powers because playing Mike, Cody Simon's going to need a blow here and there, or he could get nicked up. You take a lot of, you just get beat up a lot in that position. So yeah, I had Gabe Powers. And the guy that I've been hyping up for 2 years, Caden McDonald, finally people are like, hey, this guy's pretty good. Jermaine Matthews, yes. Jason Moore, yes. And then so two that I had that were 3 actually that were outliers were Mitch Melton because he's healthy. Nobody can block Mitch Melton on our offensive line apparently. Arvell Reese is going to get some run, and I think he's going to get run at defensive end. And then Calvin Simpson Hunt. I think people forget about him but he did come in with Jermaine Matthews, but he came in late last year. So again, guys that we're going to see these guys play. We have to see them play.
Well, let's talk about that. So after going through this little exercise together, if we don't play depth this year, I'm going to lose my mind.
You and me both, man. I might have to go shake Jim Knowles. Sorry, Paula.
Our second team defense, I am convinced, could be a top 15, maybe top 10 defense in the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they had to play right now.
Yeah.
I think with a spring and a fall camp, they could be a top 5 defense.
Yeah.
Getting all the reps as ones. So we've got to do it. We have to do it. There's so many reasons. Number 1, develop, right? Number 2, recruiting. Number 3, we need guys to be able to step in there in case of injuries,
Yeah.
We're 4. It's a long season. Keep the ones fresh.
Yep. Well, there was one other one I didn't mention, and I may be a little off here, but I do think you could see some Aaron Scott too. I think you could see Aaron Scott
if
a
you
little
want,
bit.
if you know that, I think that's a different segment. Is like which true freshman. Now, granted, I mentioned Edric Houston, but he's just
I think his body change from January till the picture I saw of him yesterday, like, whoa, what the heck happened to that guy? So, I think you could see some of that too. Offense, I imagine our people will be similar, but I think I'll probably have two that you may not. But let's who on offense?
I think that the obvious one is if we're talking about non-starters. I would think,
non-starters.
I think Ennis.
Okay.
And I can't believe I'm about to say this. I'm officially torn as to who number 5 will be between Ballard and Rogers.
Okay.
Jalen seems to have maybe had a little bit of a aha moment this spring.
Oh, they out of time.
Enough to get him on the field.
Yeah.
And then the two running backs.
Okay.
And then I don't want to beat a dead horse, but whoever QB2 is needs to get a lot of reps.
Yeah. So I'll just go down
reps, like real reps. Like, man, I saw a clip of Joey Burrow's Ohio State highlights,
and
he was throwing the ball and taking downfield shots when we were up by 40 or 50 points. Like, we need to let our second QB run the offense.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, but I mean that was Urban Meyer too. Because Urban, just didn't care. So I'll go down my list for you. You tell me what you think. I've got Devin Brown, and or Will Howard, and then it goes Bryson Rogers, Luke Montgomery, Brandon Ennis, James Peoples, Sese, and or Sam Williams-Dixon, Jaden Ballard, and then I threw in Jelani Thurman because, theoretically, like, it's him and Patrick Gerd behind Scott and Kazmarek. So you're one injury away from either one of those. And Ryan Day brought up both those players.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of easy pickings, but the reason I picked Luke Montgomery is because I could see them using him in the Bison package again. If he does, right now I'm all in on Carson Hinsman being the starting right guard. Okay. Well, I originally said Austin Sareveld when I was with you and Chuck. So, but they need him behind Donnie. So, I think you could see Luke in that Bison package, and I think he's going to need to play some too. So, I don't know. What do you think? You think Luke's going to play?
Yeah. I mean, Luke is a solid 2 deep offensive lineman. I don't think he is any longer in contention for the right guard spot.
Yeah, I think he's going to, like I said,
he's repping at center almost exclusively at this point.
Shocking. Anyways, all right. So that was really all I had. Do you want to do we're at 50 minutes. Do you want to do the Gopher schedule?
No, but
no. No, I don't want to do it.
I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be. I think the ceiling for them is 6 or 6. I think they can be as bad as 4 and 8.
Yeah.
I think they end up around 5 and 7.
I think they could beat Rhode Island.
Yeah, but dude, we've got to talk about the sanctions.
Okay. Okay, fine. Go ahead.
I mean, 4-year show cause, 1 year suspension if he was to come back. That is really interesting. The precedent is there for the NFL to honor NCAA suspensions when people leave on the heels of being suspended.
Okay.
I mean, now some people will say the NFL didn't suspend Jim Trussell for 6 games as an analyst for Indianapolis. Roger Goodell came out and said, if Indianapolis didn't do it, we were going to. So they did it to appease the NFL office.
Yep.
Terrell Pryor was suspended for games.
Yep.
Because of he was going to be suspended for the college season if he had come back. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they justify not suspending him. I anticipate something happening, whether it's a financial fine or him having to sit out some sort of games.
Could very well be.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I personally kind of lean to the side of like a really hefty fine. But Goodell, I don't like Roger Goodell. So let me preface that. But he's such a stickler for stuff. I could see him absolutely suspending Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
For 4 games.
It's just because of the precedent.
Yeah.
Like, how do you justify not doing it?
Yeah.
Now, could they wait until this other investigation is complete? I mean, let's talk about this for a second, man. He got a 4-year show cause and a 1-year suspension. And for people to say that that's all that happened, we need to remember that Jim Harbaugh was treated differently and separately, separately because of his unwillingness to cooperate.
Correct.
In his lying.
Yeah.
The other people that were already involved, including some people that are still at Michigan, their punishment had already been doled out.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Sherrone Moore is facing repeat offender status. He's one of the people that received a punishment for this COVID recruiting stuff. And it's not a cheeseburger. The cheeseburger was the smoking gun. So for people that don't understand what happened, there was a recruit and his family who said they were on campus and met with Harbaugh and that they remember vividly that he ordered a bacon cheeseburger for breakfast. And when Harbaugh denied knowing anything about it, the receipt was produced, and sure as hell, there was a bacon cheeseburger ordered for breakfast on the receipt. And the guy still continued to lie.
Yep.
He is a pathological. I think he's a sociopath. I think he's a pathological liar at the very least. And for him to get up there and say, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, and if you do, then own it and apologize, but I'm not apologizing because I didn't do it. Yeah. It's just he's going to make himself a martyr. He started yesterday. I posted about it this morning.
Yep.
He's going to make it seem like this was a witch hunt because he spoke up for revenue sharing and all this other stuff. No, Jim, it's not. You're a liar. Yep. You're a cheater. You've now got people from your staff coming out and saying that you point blank told them to go to and cross the line when it came to recruiting. Okay. What else were you willing to cross the line on? In your book, you said it's hard to compete with the cheaters in the SEC. This guy sold his soul to the devil to save his own butt, and now it's coming back to haunt him.
Yeah. I agree with you. I'd be interested to see how long it takes for them to remove Ward Manuel from the College Football Playoff Committee. And
is
he?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing I'd be interested to see is how long until Wink Martindale's named the head coach at Michigan, because Sherrone Moore is going to be either put on leave or fired.
Wink Martindale or Tony Alford?
Well,
wouldn't that be something?
That would be funny if it, but I mean, he'll be one of them. Somebody's going to be the interim head coach at Michigan sometime this year. So when the notice of allegations comes out and they prove that, every single one of those staff members knew what was going on, and it'll be very interesting to see.
Yeah. But
it will not be Sherrone Moore. I don't think is going to finish the season as the Michigan football head coach. So.
I think that they knew this was coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Sherrone Moore got the protection that Jim Harbaugh was asking for.
Okay. Well, that could very well be. That could be.
He may have to serve a suspension.
Yeah.
But I don't. If they do have to fire him, I think he'll still get paid.
Okay.
I think whether it's behind the scenes and off the record or whatever, I think that
He'll just go work for the Chargers.
They knew what was going on. They knew what was coming. They needed to get him to stay. They needed some sort of continuity in the program. It was a good business decision to try to keep somebody there.
Yeah.
He was the obvious choice. I can't imagine. It would be a complete dereliction of duty on behalf of his representatives if they didn't get some sort of protection for him.
Yeah, I could see that. I don't know. The more and more and more this comes out, I just
see what you did there.
Yeah. I have started to believe that they all knew they were cheating, and they were just going to continue to do it because they just they felt like they had the team that could compete and win, and they were okay with it.
I think they're running cover for Harbaugh. If you believe the reports are out there that they still haven't been able to connect Harbaugh to it,
I don't believe it.
Listen,
not one
man,
bit.
This is the way these things go, right? It's no different than a politician, or the president, where there's an off-the-record conversation. There's no recording or documentation about that conversation. And it goes something like this. Do what you need to do. I don't know anything about it.
Yep. It's pretty much how it goes. And that's what I think happened. They knew they were cheating. They knew that.
You have a staff member now that has said he basically said the same. He basically said that regarding recruiting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my goodness, my thing I go back to is Connor Stallions on the sidelines with the Michigan football team next to the coordinators with a book, laminated book of signals that like visually you can see them. They had to know. Sorry to burst everybody's bubble. We all know that.
His title was something like player personnel assistant.
Hmm.
Those guys are not in the ear of one coordinator, let alone two coordinators.
Yeah. And the head coach.
Course of the game.
Yeah.
Like that, that's the part that just baffles me. Like there is nobody on the staff that has responsibilities for both sides of the ball.
No,
let alone who's in the ear, other than the head coach, let alone who's in the ear of both coordinators throughout the course of the game. Like that position doesn't exist.
Yeah.
On a football staff.
Can I will correlate this for someone. So my son is in first grade. He's playing football. I'm helping coach. I'm coaching primarily the defensive line and the linebackers. I don't talk to anybody on the offense at all because my son plays on the defense. And this is first grade. I'm just saying. I will have conversation before and after, but I'm not over there saying, hey, when you pull the right guard, make sure that like he's hitting, I'm not, make sure he's getting to the second level. I'm not telling them that. I'm telling my son, hey, if the right guard pulls, swim and get to the inside. So, cause those are the kind of things I'm coaching him up to do. But,
hey, try that stuff against the Chip Kelly offense.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, it probably would. It'd probably be bad news because he would.
There is some talk. I don't remember what show it was on this morning. There was some talk about how hard Chip Kelly's offense is going to be to defend, and they used an example of the whole line going one direction and Will Howard pulling the ball and throwing it to Emeka back the other way.
Yeah,
I cannot wait. I just can't wait, and it's going to be. I think everybody needs to prepare themselves to be a little frustrated because we're not going to see the real sexy stuff until it matters.
Right. Well, I did think it was cool
stuff on film to make them prepare, but there's going to be a lot of stuff we see for the first time in the big games.
There were two things I picked up. The first was Ryan Day mentioned that the defensive coordinators can talk to the linebackers up until there's 15 seconds still left on the play clock. And then Chip Kelly talked about how he wished he had a zip line from the booth down to the field so that he could do both. And I was like, that's an awesome idea. Let's invent it. Oh, wait, we don't need to because we have, they can talk to each other. But, yeah, I get it. We won't see something like that in probably in the early games. Maybe we'll see a little something to. I've always thought that this was the genius of Tom Herman. Like, he would set something at Ohio State. He would put something in the playbook early in the year, like a motion to the left, and it would be like a sprint draw, and then what it would do would eventually, like, everybody would see that on film, and he'd set it up for a throwback to like Hireman on the other side of the field, and it would go for this huge gain. And I was like, like, obviously you're setting something up, but the defense is, they start moving and thinking, oh, we know the play, and then he just bing.
Yeah.
So anyways, Herman was a good offensive play caller for Ohio State for sure. But all right, man, any final words? We're at an hour exactly.
No, I just can't wait until some of this stuff plays out. And
yeah,
3 more weeks, man. 3 more weeks.
We're getting there. 22 days. I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm like 90-10. I'm going to that game. So I got offered the alumni tickets, and I was like, I don't really want to sit there. So
which game?
Akron. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So like I think they gave Akron 10,000 alumni tickets. I think I'll have to go look at the email. But I don't normally sit. I like that would be like, I don't want to sit way up in where they put the, people from the other teams, fans at the top of the stadium. I want to go back to my regular seats in the Huntington Club. So if I go, that's where I'll go.
You're a snob.
Look, there are very few things in life that I'm bougie about. I am bougie about where I sit at the Horseshoe. Okay. Like I want the nice food.
Any sporting event. Like when we go to Preds games, even if it's a regular season game, like I'm splurging. Like I want good seats.
Yeah. So, and I'm fortunate enough that I do have access to those. So through some friends, but anyways, you guys have a good week. I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. We'll keep you updated. Dan and I, will grab as many notes as we can from the scrimmage on Saturday, and get them out to you, either via X or on Tuesday on a pod. Remember, subscribe. We are on our Blitz to 500, and you get a $50 Buckeye Corner gift card for some nice merch at the start of the season if we hit that 500 mark.
One person,
No, one person.
Okay.
one random person will do a randomizer, and we'll do it on our recording so people can see that we did it fairly. But otherwise, you guys enjoy yourselves, stay safe, have a good weekend. As always, go Bucks.